The Splitting Hares Podcast. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Welcome to the Splitting Hares Podcast. Proudly joined today by Tolu Ogunrinde. Did I get that right, Tolu?
Yeah, Ogunrinde, but Ogunrinde. That's what usually people say. Yeah.
Man, I just learned how to say my own last name correctly, actually. No joke, too. I was doing some Irish history research, and there's several different ways to say it, and I've been saying it my own Americanized way for a long time, so apologies to that.
Let's hear them both.
So it's Shein, like the store, I think it's heavily women's clothing store, like Shein, and Shehan, like they say down south here in Texas. Wow, Shehan. That's how they say it in Frisco, though, where the Jacks have been back-to-back years. And we'll dive right into it, man. Like, Saturday's performance did not look like a team that's poised to make a third trip to Frisco. What was your take on it overall?
Yeah, there's a saying that Coach Rogers said last year, the statement is the standard. And I know we lost a lot of guys from last year, but it seems like you can tell there's a little bit of a dip, kind of guys that haven't played for 2 years, just kind of getting it in their hands, the starting position. And everyone's trying to adjust, but Augustana, a team like that's a team we should be able to bury no matter what we got going on. And guys should be at that point licking at their chops to kind of prove like that's my starting spot. And there was definitely some discrepancies in a lot of areas that I know Coach Rogers is going to harp on these guys. But yeah, overall, that last game, it's kind of a habit for us in past times to kind of play down to our level. But, with the new, that's going off my point, the statement is the standard thing. It didn't seem like that team that we had last year. That statement is the standard team where it kind of was just perfect ball all around. And, that's just how it's going to be. We got young guys that are stepping up. And so it's kind of expected, but, we want to see guys improve.
Yeah, definitely. And you want to see guys have fun and be loose and stuff like that. I think there needs to be a better level of discernment, though. Dancing after a touchdown against a D2 team when you've got 3 turnovers, probably not the best look. I actually didn't get to hear Jimmy weigh in on that, but I don't imagine he was too happy, with a little bit of showboating considering the circumstances.
Yeah, if you know Rogers, he's gonna let guys hear it too. No games with stuff like that. He wants to make a statement in any game he plays, and I don't think that was the statement he wanted to make this last game. So I didn't even really see any showboating from guys, but you're showboating after playing a team like that, and then no fronts to Augustana. They played their asses off. A lot of guys that I saw could really make the step to the next level, and so that's kudos to them. But we're one of the renowned teams of FCS for a reason, and we don't want to see it not against a team like that. That's not a team we should be kind of keeping it interesting. It was just interesting for a second. I'm like, guys, let's lock in.
Yeah, there's definitely some concern, I think, at a few positions with some fresh blood, some younger kids, underclassmen. That's going to happen in any team. They're going to have to learn how to play and learn what the standard is in practice. Each rep is going to make people better. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for weighing in. Regardless of the opponent, the expectation is the 1 through 3 on the depth chart can get it done, and they trust you. That's why your name is inked on the depth chart. At first, during the week, I had heard some rumblings that Coach Rogers was possibly challenging some guys to shake up the depth chart, and it looks like that happened actually this week, which is cool. So, unfortunately, some guys have fallen off that were on to start the year, and new guys stepped up, and I think that should not discourage those who have seen some some starting reps get limited now, and it should encourage them to want to get better and kind of shrink the deficits wherever they may be at whichever position that might arise. So I think that it should be encouraging for all parties, for the guys who have shown up every week, day to day in practice, to earn this nod coming into Hammond, Louisiana on Saturday. And then at the same time, looking at the team as a whole, the Jacks can't play on reputation anymore. It's all about execution. All those seniors that got NFL shots are gone. You do have some staples. Obviously, you have historically what's been the best player in the nation the past couple of years, and Mark Gronowski still under center, but Mark hasn't even played up to his standard. So he still has all those leadership intangibles. He can still get it done in crunch time, and there's still no quarterback I'd rather have on my team leading. But that being said, only politicians run on reputation, man. This isn't a popularity contest, and this isn't politics. There are teams, unfortunately, just like politics in this, and the two teams lining up on Saturday are going to run on merit and execution. And when we're the away team coming in, we got to execute at a better clip, particularly, in my opinion, in the trenches. Running the football, we can run the stretch zone like nobody's business. Amar can get off like nobody. He'll break tackles at the point of contact. He's really elusive in space, but I think that's his bread and butter. And I didn't like how we were running in between the tackles last Saturday. That will have to improve. What's your take on the defensive side of the ball as far as the front seven chain gang?
Oh, you said it right there. The trenches needs to turn it up a notch, and it really is tough when you lose some key guys on both sides. I mean, losing a guy like Mason McCormick, one of the greatest guards to ever go through that school, it's gonna obviously have some impact not only on the practice field. I mean, if you saw the type of practices we were having when Mason was on, I mean, it's a fight every week. That's the type of energy you need. You got to really have to fight your teammates during those fall camp and leading up to your first game. It's a battle, blood for blood, just try to get better. And you can tell that that's kind of just lacking a little bit. It doesn't seem we have a full leader that wants to take over on the D line yet, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for. Someone to step up and kind of take that role as the playmaker and the guy that gets those guys up. I know we got a lot of young guys that are looking for their spot, and we got guys like the Priests who have been around, and so some of those guys are just going to have to use their raw talent, and some of those guys are just going to have to use their mature instincts and kind of just find a way to make plays, change the outcome of games, and get the ball back to our offense. I still think though that looking back at a couple of the games, it's really hard to say that we obviously haven't played up to the standard we want to, but that is also just to attest to how good that team was last year. So it is going to be really hard to compete to what that team last year was doing. But if you look back at the games we played versus Oklahoma State, what's the name of that second team?
UIW, Incarnate Word.
Incarnate Word, and then obviously Augustana. The tape isn't always as bad as it looks, but it could definitely be a lot better. Like Coach Stig used to always say, "Can we play better, men?" And they know they're saying that to themselves. We can play better. Everyone's looking at the film like, "Ooh, I got to make that play." Mark's saying that to himself too on a couple of those throws. But ultimately, I know guys are gonna kick it up a notch, especially when we get closer to Valley play. Because I actually don't. This Louisiana team, that's obviously not a Valley play team. I know they changed the whole Valley. I was looking at some of the schedules, and the Valley's completely different this year. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah. The Missouri Valley has definitely changed its complexion with Western Illinois going to the OVC, and then Murray State coming in, kind of picking up the slack there at the tail end. They're going to get a taste and have gotten a taste last year of Missouri Valley play. So Yeah, Western's out. They have a whole bunch of kinks to work out in their athletics department as a whole. They were able to get some talent in. I know you probably even thought the same. They had guys at positions, and even as far back as I can remember, Lance Lenore, who had a run with the Cowboys. I mean, they had some dudes for whatever reason just couldn't stick it out in the Valley. I think the OVC is a better fit for them, even geographically. That was one of the farthest road trips for us outside of Youngstown State, obviously. And, you really captured it well. I think nobody's a bigger critic than the guys in that locker room either. I mean, Matt and I used to talk about it when we did the DII podcast together. We could sit and bump our gums all day and be like, guys need to do this, guys need to do that. But when push comes to shove, they know what their responsibilities are. They see themselves in the mirror. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. The tape exposes everybody. And I know that they're going to be ready to rock come Saturday.
Yeah. And another thing too, I mean, kind of back to that statement is the standard thing. It felt like the new statement, or even just the new standard, was we're the new number one team. We're the new dynasty that we're trying to instill onto the FCS. And not only that, we are now showing to the NFL that we have guys that could be potential prospects, guys that could be potential Cinderella stories, and we don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose that in the eyes of whether that be scouts or coaches, that we're that team where you could go to a small school like South Dakota State, Brookings, South Dakota, and find a guy like Tucker Kraft, a guy like Dallas Goddard, small town guys, and become NFL guys. And that should be the statement for a lot of these guys. We're making a big run, a big at bat, and everyone's watching, see what you can do. And that's the statement to me. We're not just here for a national championship anymore. That's already given. We know where we're going with that, but it's about how many guys we can turn over to NFL prospects as well.
Certainly. And that's the goal for a lot of these guys, especially the top, 2% on our roster, definitely having their sights set on the highest level that you can play ball at. And, even guys like yourself, just, athletic specimens who come in at one position, but are just football guys and have the desire to line up where your number's called and switch over to that defensive side and show that you can rush the passer. I actually had a dude I played with who's real good friends with Jimmy, Isaiah Jackson, who was a linebacker, but in 3-4 packages would come up and rush the passer. And he would do whatever he could just to get more reps, get more playing time to make impact. And he even did it at the highest level when we played against the Gophers. So, there's no telling to someone's potential depending on how hard they want to work for it. The statement is the standard, but these guys got to realize the product that they watched is only a small fraction of how they got to that product. It's all the work and all the long, miserable hours that go into it that you're not getting instant gratification. You're making your daily deposits because it takes what it takes, as Coach Saban said, right? And for the statement to be the standard, it does take what it takes. And what it takes is religious discipline in your preparation. And I know Coach Rogers is going to model that and have the guys ready for it. I think last week too, it's worth noting when you play teams like that, and I know you played a few in your career that did you play Lindenwood? Were you a 21 guy?
Yep, I played Lindenwood, yeah.
So your install packages are not going to be real deep, right? They're not going to be evolved. You're not going to see exotic packages because by and large, you should be able to roll out your base package and execute. So there's something to be said about that too. I know on offense, I was hoping to see something a little bit more creative at times that they probably just didn't have installed. I will say this, we're starting to experience a little bit of a lack of the train, Isaiah Davis running up the middle, man, because it's great that we've got Chase Mason to roll out there and have him do the dirty work and just light fools up in the A gap and just truck them, even at the second level at the safety. But I don't think that that's a long-term solution. So I'd like to see something emerge there. What's your take on that, on the short yardage back?
I don't know how you feel about this, but I think Amar's been running really, really hard. I know he's not Isaiah Davis per se, but he is a different kind of back in his own and kind of the same way with that power, but also that surprising speed. And his low center of gravity too also helps his balance in between the gaps too. And he makes a lot of cuts and breaks a lot of tackles that kind of really surprised me. I don't think uh I'm not as deep on the depth chart as they are these days. I think you said Chase Mason.
Yeah, Chase Mason's a backup QB who's
Okay.
like the 6'4", 235, transfer from
Oh,
Nebraska, and he is a beast in the hole.
okay.
So
They
they've
got
been
him like taking snaps or
yeah, they've
running back handoffs.
not running back handoffs, but they're rolling out there in packages where Mark and himself will be on the field. He'll take the direct snap and they'll insert the running back as an additional blocker, or
Wow.
they'll shift trade motion, run some different looks just to insert another blocker to get him some running room. But that's an
Okay.
option. I just don't know that that's a long-term solution because you can kind of telegraph that when he's on the field. Now, at the same time, it does add the mystique of potential passes, but I would like to see, and I think Amar can run the ball between the tackles too. But as we're trying to ingratiate some of these younger guys into playing time at the O-line position, particularly on the left side of the ball, we want to make sure that they're getting movement, right? They're denting the defensive line. And for Amar to be able to not meet first contact right there at the line of scrimmage, right? And so I think we just need to put people in position to be at their best and be the most successful. To me, that's Amar off tackle. He can get it done in between the tackles. Jim Poppin here, longtime friend of the pod, has said Maxwell Woods, true freshman, really showed some flashes against Augie. He averaged 10 yards a carry. Now that's against Augie, but 10 yards a carry at the collegiate level is 10 yards a carry. I mean, that's a clip. I think he had 6 carries last week, so that was pretty impressive to see him emerge. It's like we just continue to reload. Definitely owning that moniker RBU. I mean, you were an RB, and I guarantee you could have toted the rock, but we had quite a deep running back room when you were there with guys like Pierre Strong and the like. So it'll be interesting to see what they do as far as the RB room, because I know Angel is not listed as playing this week as well. Angel Johnson's a really solid back specimen, just shredded. Looks like he just walked off a Muscle and Fitness magazine. Really good looking athlete. So yeah, there's definite potential in the RB room. I know Coach Rouse will get them ready, and they'll be ready to rock for Valley play as well. But it'll be interesting to see, because I know the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana, they are pretty good at home. They're 7-1 in their last 8 non-conference home games. So something's got to give here on Saturday night at 6:00.
They're
When the
going to
boys,
give us their best. We know that.
yeah. And you know how it is. And you played teams from the South and the Southland Conference. You played in the national title game against Sam Houston. They got some dogs. The Southland can recruit some nice talent.
Yeah. And just to go off that too, what was I? Sorry, I was looking.
You're good.
I took a little bit of my notes. I was actually gonna go off what you said though. You said Angel's not playing this next game. Is he? Did he get hurt last game?
I don't know. He didn't even play last game. I don't know. You know how South Dakota State, even back when Sig was there, they don't disclose injury info. So not sure what's going on with him or.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but I would imagine that he'll be back here sooner or later, ready to rock.
Yeah. I think his speed too is that makes a big difference too. I know Amar runs off the tackles too, but Angel off the tackles, it's night and day, and that's the kind of dynamic too. I feel like they should kind of get back to. I know they were really trying it with Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State is a different team entirely, and it's almost as if they were doing it too much versus Oklahoma State. But I don't also know about this Louisiana, this new Louisiana team. I kind of just saw them or I was looking them up before we got them. What kind of team are they?
Yeah, so they're a pretty athletic team. They're not going to be like Oklahoma State in terms of run and hurry up offensively. They struggle through the air. I think they've only had one 130 plus yards receiver on the year, so they're not really a deep threat like we've seen like the UIW thus far. They do have a really talented running back, and they have a receiver that is going to see plenty of attention from Dallas Beanham and, the best of our secondary for sure. I can pull up their names here quick, but I want to say the last time that we played them was like 2012. I remember because I had just graduated and I was coaching at Brookings High School, and we were preparing, and I was watching the game or the scores on ESPN.com. I think Zenner went over like 200 yards against them, or he feasted, So if we can get back to running the ball, especially on the road, if you can run the ball, that's a game changer. It really sets the tone. They don't want to tackle guys who are going to pound the rock left and right. And that's something that we've been doing this year a lot more of in terms of passing to set up the run, which I'm an old school guy, I guess. I would prefer to run the rock, 60-40 at minimum. I think it's more exciting to see the ball thrown through the air. I wonder if they're going to, run Mark a little bit more because, as you know, even his true freshman year, Mark was a beast when he toted the rock.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just another added element to have to account for. And then, when we talk about their team as a whole, I know they get poached a ton just being down there in the South from a lot of the saturation of FBS schools surrounding the area. I mean, they got guys that are, starting at the FBS level now on some elite teams throughout like the SEC even. In terms of their running backs, like we mentioned, they have number 22, just like yourself, Antonio Martin Jr. He goes at about 220 pounds, so that's going to be a stout man for the Jacks to bring down. Adam Bach, no doubt, will be running sideline to sideline and filling the A gaps on that. And then they have Harlan Dixon, who's 190 but 6'1", so they got some size and talent out there. And then Dixon he led rushing in the Southland Conference. And then, but Blinn College transfer, and he was committed to Georgia Tech at one time, is Dixon. He's going to be the guy that they're going to have to really isolate and contain. He's gotten the most of the carries so far. He's averaging 5.4 a clip with only one touchdown. His longs of 22, but that's kind of skewed because they've played let me make sure I got it right. They played Tulane and then they played Southern Miss. So those are two FBS foes that obviously 22 more scholarships is a big difference, as we saw against Oklahoma State. Now, those aren't Power 5 schools or Power 4 now, but they're still elite. I mean, Tulane beat Southern Cal a couple years ago in a marquee bowl, so January 1st bowl. So anything can happen, when you're rolling out against the FBS guys. But he's a transfer from Louisiana Tech. Dixon is, and had 19 attempts for 150 yards, 7.6 yards a carry, with 2 touchdowns and a long of 35 when he this year. So he's also added 4 receptions for 8 yards through the air, so he can really be an impact in both aspects of the game. And then they have some dudes at skill position and tight end. Darius Lewis is a guy that they're going to get the rock to as well. He's smaller in stature, but he does a lot of the on the edge stuff for them. We've seen that, throughout our time thus far this year with I want to say Presley, I think was his name, for Oklahoma State. The number 80, kind of a slider frame. Definitely not the same type of frame as Owens on the edge for Oklahoma State. They also have Jalen Domingo, who has 8 receptions for 89 yards. And then they have a Southern Miss transfer as well. Brandon Hayes, 5 receptions for 47 yards and a TD. They have not scored much this year, though. They have only scored 38 points on the year. So they have a complete scoring disparity against them to start the year. And then they have a Liberty and UL Lafayette transfer, Errol Rogers. He's got 3 receptions for 17 yards. So they're going to have some stout skill on the edge there. Tight ends are also a big point of emphasis and are quite large. 6'6", 245 goes Cade Collier, number 89. And then they've got Ivan Jabraki, who's 6'4", 240, and he's got 7 receptions for 25. And then they have an H-back like we do, like Kevin Brenner. And then that's going to be Seth Adams. He's 6'3", 260. No real stats on him, but obviously featured more in the run game. And again, like I told you, it's just a slower paced offense. It's not going to be the hurry up, quick pace like UIW was this year. You saw that.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely going to be on the D line this game. I'm like you're saying, they're a run heavy team. They're going to want to kind of rely on that run game, and historically, our defense has been good at stuffing the run offense. So I think it's going to come down to them putting the ball in the air. And they've already let up 7 sacks this season. So I think, our D-line should be licking their chops this game. It should be a game where we're attacking their O-line and kind of letting them know that, we're still one of the best D-lines in the country. Chain gang is still, I don't know if they go by the chain gang still, but the chain gang is still the chain gang. So
that's right.
I want to see my guys in the backfield this game. I want to see DePriest in the backfield, Max in the backfield, guys off the edge, and I think Randy's even back this game. I saw.
Yeah, he
wasn't playing last game, right?
Correct. Yep. And I'm waiting for him to emerge because he's got it. And I was watching the Oklahoma State game pretty closely, and they're a get it out of the hands quick, like 2-step out of the gun. And we had guys like Bryce Hawthorne get back there, like really, really good initial move. But as you know, it's got the transition pass rush. You have to have something in your back pocket when that initial move doesn't work or you don't capture the edge and you transition to bull rush. You got to know it. You can't be guessing. It can't be any moment of hesitation, right? And we did get off the schneid last week. Dawson Ruperta got a sack and a half, and I think we tallied 3 total on the day, with 6+ tackles for loss. So we didn't have the chain gang moniker, in my opinion, after the first couple games, but we definitely got back, and now I'll call them the chain gang again.
Okay.
After last week.
They lost it for a couple weeks.
They did. It wasn't necessarily on them the past couple weeks, and certainly I will say, stale performance they had last week was not on them. It was more so a function of turnovers, sloppy play, poor execution, horrendous conversion on 3rd down. I think we were like 1 of 5 at one point. And, we got to be more complete in the passing game as well. Our route concepts looked so vanilla on Saturday, just very basic. And then our quarterback reads need to be crisper, and we need to get through our progression better.
Yeah.
And then when the ball is thrown, we got to catch them. I know Graham Goring is legit, number 12. So is Griffin Wilde. Griffin Wilde catches it if it's anywhere near his vicinity, but Graham Goring has had a couple drops this year, and I know he'd like to have those back. So I know he'll play in the present, as Coach Stig said, and he'll get it done on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see what we do on that front. Their offensive line, our defensive scheme, Jim makes a good point, doesn't lend itself to sacks. You got it. I mean, if we're going to manufacture a pass rush, that's all well and good, but I don't know. Tolu, do you agree with that?
During about the defensive scheme does not lend itself. It's like, but is he basically saying that our scheme isn't really for the D line?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. That's actually how it's always been. The D line never gets enough credit for what they do. It's always usually sacrificial bodies for the linebackers, and like you were saying earlier, a lot of 3-step, a lot of 2-step with the offenses too. So it is hard for our guys to get sacks. It is hard for them to get back there, but still, pressure is pressure, and I'm looking for more of the pressure than the number sacks too. We want to make it at least uncomfortable for them. So I think that was Jim that just said. Jim just made a great point. It is designing our schemes for the D line to not make plays. Technically, we're not really
Yeah,
designed to make plays, and if we make plays, that just can attest to how good a lot of our guys are. But it
yeah.
it is kind of designed that way.
This is going to be another good thing for the Chain Gang to eat. Cole Kelly was a beast. I think he was there maybe 3 years, maybe your senior year he was there, and they made a fairly decent run in the playoffs. And now they're cycling guys in at the QB position, which is going to be tough, right? Because as we know, if you're running multiple QBs out there, a 2 QB system is not a 1 QB system, meaning you don't have the guy. Now there's packages like we have with Chase Mason, like they have with Cole Payton at North Dakota State, that are a bit different. We know who the guy is. They know who the guy is up there. We know who the guy is at Brookings. So I think it's a bit different. They're still trying to find their identity under center, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. But I always love seeing multiple different quarterback sets when I did play D-line, because it's you get some fresh blood in there. You get them a little bit anxious. The nerves are there, and then trying to come in cold after you've been on the bench for series and you're not necessarily in the flow of the game. That's a tough thing to do. So when we look at defensively, they're a 4-man front. They basically alternate. They're kind of multiple. They alternate between 4-3 and 4-2-5. They'll run a nickel out there. They have some nice size. They look good athletically coming off the bus. Like I said, they're allowing a ridiculous number of points per game, but that is, because they played FBS foes to start out. They're giving up about 151 rush yards per game, which is not great. And they're throwing for about 237 a game, which is decent, especially considering their opponents. But Tulane ran the ball all over, and then 241 rush yards, and then respectively, they gave up 121 to Southern Miss, and then 90 to Eastern Washington, who doesn't really run the ball. That's an air raid offense that we've seen if you paid attention throughout the years. They're not even necessarily a pass to set up the run. They're a run as a second or third order consequence of having to try to get in more manageable situations. So third down percentage, like I talked about, we were 1 of 5 last week. This is a team that allows high conversion percentages on third down at about 45%, which is super high. And they've scored, the opponents are really making hay when they do get into the red zone. Almost 100% conversion thus far. And 11 of those trips out of 14 have been 4 touchdowns. So something's going to give on Saturday.
Yeah, and it looks like their leading tackler is a DB, which is always telling to me when your leading tackler is a DB. Something's going on in that box. So you were saying earlier that we should run the ball a lot. I'm kind of into that new age of throwing the ball, but you're right there. We're going to be running the ball downhill a lot this game. Anytime you see something like that, that's just open flag here. I mean, the leading tackler is a DB with 19 tackles, and I think that this is going to be some time where we can kind of gain some more confidence in the trenches on both sides of the field, kind of take advantage of their D-line, and our D-line kind of take advantage of their offenses is what I want to see. I was going to finish that point by saying,
we had. I like the newer offenses as well, where we throw it all over the place. We stay pretty balanced. A lot of new looks with tight end shifts and motions, and we find our guys downfield or over the edge. I mean, we've thrown I can't remember the name of the call. A flea flicker touchdown so far. Griffin Wilde's got unbelievable athletic ability for such a young guy. Definitely a power 4 caliber receiver, as we saw against Oklahoma State. And he's going to be an interesting matchup with a lot of their length that they got at the linebacker position and DB position. And so it'll be interesting to see him get off. But I think the only reason I bring up the running game so much is they're so established, right?
Yeah.
Both Amar and Angel have toted the rock, and it's been kind of Amar waiting in the works, and he's been a feature in the 2022 national title game. I said it last week with my buddy who's an NFL scout on the pod, Eric Ellingworth. He's a scout for the Cowboys. I was like, he's a tone setter. You go back to 2022, when the season kind of hung in the balance against North Dakota State, Amar lit him up. Isaiah goes down after punishing.
Yeah.
And then like you said, and I brought it up with Eric as well, his low center of gravity, Amar's low center of gravity makes it so tough to get enough surface area to make a great tackle on him, get a clean hit. And so I want to see them ride him, get him into the flow of the game. Because like real big playmakers, once they start to get some momentum, once they start to feel in flow, man, it's really tough to slow them down. Exactly.
Yeah, and that goes to there's a new guy, not new, number 89, Brady Gormley.
Brody Gormley, yeah.
Brody Gormley. Yeah, he's looking good. I was watching some more highlights too, and wrote his number down. He's another guy too for the future, though, that they should be looking to build his confidence for the future, along with Griffin. I think Graham Goring, right? That's number 12. Yep. I think he's a senior, so you're kind of looking for those dynamics. The 1-2 in the air versus the 1-2 punch we kind of have on the ground with Amar and Angel, who hopefully is coming back soon. But I think run the ball, attack them on the defensive line side, fill gaps, get after the ball, run after the ball. We know they want to run the ball, and you can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with that game plan.
Yeah. And our tight ends are young. Our tight ends are young, right? So they're coming along too. They got to improve the blocking. I didn't love what I saw last week on the perimeter of the line there with them, because letting too much leakage come through, especially against a D2 school, they're going to clean that up. I know coaches got after them this week in practice, no doubt. And if they want to get the touches in the passing game, you got to be able to block, right? Yeah. You got to be able to get in short, manageable down and distance situations in order for them to call on your number. Especially like, guys like Kevin Brenner, that's H-backs. That's what I was. That's what he is. In order to touch the rock, you got to do the dirty work. And I know they're willing. I know they're able. They just got to execute on Saturday night to be able to get the rock. Grayton Gannon has also looked pretty good in the pass game. But like you said, Brody Gormley, he could be a weapon. I think he goes about 6'6", maybe 225, 235, and he can run. So if we can get him in some situations on the edge, maybe split him out. I want to see some stuff like that. I want to see Coach Olson, that I know he's capable, take the next step in your iteration of the offense. Your personnel now. You've gotten into a rhythm calling plays. What are you going to do to exploit defenses and bring the game to you? What are you going to do to force the issue? I know last week we saw some guys take some snaps, Voorhees being one of them at running back. I want if they're going to call his number, we can't be making mistakes like getting holding penalties and fumbling the rock on kick return, right? That's going to be a big point of emphasis. You can't start the game off with a turnover when you're on limited reps. So we got to do what we can to mitigate those errors for sure. And when it comes to Graham, he's an upperclassman. He is a junior, academic senior. But I think, these guys are giving up. You played with the Yankee twins. They accounted for like 25, 30% of our entire offensive production. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, we're trying to replace an absolute shit ton of productivity.
That's tough. And the protection too is just not. I mean, you lose a guy like Garrett Greenfield too, and I don't think Horst left last 2 years ago. Aaron Johnson.
Yep, John O'Brien was the right tackle. He left too. The Bowling Green transfer. So we were replacing three key weapons on the offensive line. Evan Bernstein comes back. He's the right. Yep, Bernstein comes back. He's the right guard. He's a senior. You have Gus Miller. He's a senior. Remington Award winner at our level. So I want to see them step up and take command. The 605 Hogs. I'll call them that again once they establish dominance.
Once they show it.
Right. We got to get out of this game with some momentum going into our bye week or improvement week. I don't know if Jimmy's still calling it that. I always thought it was funny that Stig called it that, but I like the framing. You got to go into that knowing that you got to improve. It's not just a, sit on your ass type deal. But I think Coach Rogers will have them ready. I think he challenged them uniquely at practice this week. I can imagine probably did a little bit more 1v1. I would imagine. Get the guys ready.
Yeah, guys got to stay. I mean, they're looking for more guys that want to make a name for themselves on that field. And it's funny. Jim Poppin in the chat said, "Tight end U." It's like they're making tight ends in a lab out there out of the same mold. Like, I don't know how we do it with the tight ends and where we find these guys at, but I'm always impressed when I see our tight ends. I mean, they always start off scared on the line of scrimmage. That's how don't let Tucker fool you. He was the same way. You scared on the line of scrimmage, and they kind of want to establish themselves as passing tight ends or catching tight ends, and the doing that on the offensive line is how you take that next step. So we know those guys can catch the ball. We'd like to see them in there on the O-line being as dominant as they are down the field. So I think we got a lot of guys that are going to be looking to make a name, looking to be the next guy. I mean, and it's wide open for a lot of people if they want to take it. I was actually going through who's a senior right now, and it's really running up on the last guys that my class played with. I mean, guys like Dayton. I mean, I played with Amar too. I played with Steven, Dallas, Beanham. Played with Bach, played with Brenner, played with Jay Lee, Colby, and those guys. They were freshmen when we were kind of that weird senior junior phase, and so a lot of those guys should see that. I mean, we lost however many guys with that talent last year, and now we're still losing a decent amount of guys this next coming year. So a lot of the young guys should be looking at that like, my time's coming. I need to be ready at all time. And even then, my time, it should be right now. I should be ready to go right now at any point in time. Anything can happen on the field, but next guy, next number at any time. And the one-on-one stuff in the during the week is something we always harp on. We're always challenging each other to get better in those one-on-one trenches. I mean, it's every week. By the end of my season, I was ready to stop one-on-ones, but Lord knows we doing one-on-ones every week, and I'm coming. If I'm a younger guy coming to try and take an older guy's spot, a senior spot. I mean, that's just the reality. We love our seniors, but we love winning too.
Yeah,
we love winning games too, and seeing guys perform.
It's who's ever ready, who wants to eat, who's hungry, right? And you mentioned Colby Herder, who was a freshman when you played. I loved seeing on Saturday the physicality, right?
Yeah.
Physicality, like Colby Herder blasted some dude across the middle, and it was a legal hit. I'm surprised they didn't throw a flag just because the sheer ferocity of it. I mean, his head hit the ground as hard as Colby hit him. It was like, an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Well, he put him 6 feet under. He definitely did that. And then coming out of half, it came out in the press that Coach Rogers challenged Dallas Beanham and wanted to see him play with some more piss and vinegar, if you will. And he knocked the starting running back out of the game.
Wow.
The very first offensive play of the second half. So it was a hell of a thing to see. I loved that. I love that. And my guy Graham, you played with him in the law firm, as I like to call him, Graham Spalding. He is always going to bring the wood. So It's cool to watch him
That's
play.
that crash out, yo.
Yep.
That's my favorite crash out. Graham's fault.
Yeah,
He might get a target in, but it's the perfect target, and I like it.
exactly. And
Uh,
you can hit a little bit when you have to come out with an apology in the press the next week to make sure
yeah,
you weren't trying to intentionally hurt somebody. I love it. And
yeah,
that encapsulates the statement is the standard, right? Because you're not going to do it with your mouth, you're going to do it with your pads. And that's always the most gratifying thing for a player, a fan base, and everybody that lines up with you, right? So it's a cool thing to see, and I hope we establish that on Saturday because there are athletes down south. Don't get it twisted. They come from all over, but they come from the South heavily. So I think the biggest thing, I was talking with Eric last week, and you fall into this category actually quite well. A lot of the guys they get from up north, I know you came from like the cities, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So you'll get guys with a higher ceiling. Like I bet you came into state not believing in your wildest dreams you would be one of the best defensive ends that we've had in a while there, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think you even knew that was your skill set and that's what you would translate to.
No, I mean, believe it or not, I was a basketball guy. And
Yeah.
I'd be surprised to believe. I mean, I wasn't big on football growing into college. I wasn't. I mean, going into high school, I was a big football guy, and that is an attest to the recruiting that we be doing at state. They really know how to find guys and then get it out of them because I mean, you go from being basketball, wanting to go to the NBA is what I ideally wanted to do and then going to play running back, and then not only going from running back to the other side of the ball, that's a big change, and then still finding a way to make it work. But I mean, you guys know Coach Rogers, and that is somebody I would run through a wall for.
Yeah.
I don't care what he tells me, like what it's about. I want to run through a wall through that guy because I know, how much intent and passion and love he puts into this game, into the people that he coaches, pours into them, and that's the type of dude he was. I mean,
Yeah.
he actually was coming out to some of my high school basketball games just for recruiting. I mean,
Love it.
coming to high school games for recruiting. I mean, how many coaches are doing that? And yeah,
Especially at the FCS level, that's what's
yeah,
cool. Like
yeah,
you said, that they'll find them from anywhere and they'll see it as like a blank canvas and they'll create their own masterpiece out of it, if you will.
yeah.
And that's what they've done with a lot of guys, yourself included, but they continue to do with a lot of the guys that are on the current roster. And Coach Rogers was the same exact way as a player, and that doesn't always transfer into the coaching domain. But he's been able to do it quite nicely. And I think this is going to be one of the first unique challenges for him in his head coaching career as he puts that hat on, because it's on the road against a Southland opponent who has been in the playoffs in recent years. They do have a lot of elite talent. They do have a lot of talent that's come down from the FBS level and is trying to make a name for themselves. And they started with two staunch opponents, right? And then they got to win against a team that has been a perennial power, in fairly recent memory in the recent past. So they're going to be someone that we need to take seriously. And the mark of a good, prepared and well-coached team is how they respond to adversity, right? That cliche, that coach speak. But last week felt like a loss to the fan base. Now, hopefully the fan base has a little perspective. Last year's team was probably one of the best teams to ever play in the FCS. Your senior class in 21, had we been a little healthier, that class is equipped and not had some freakishly unlucky things happen, both with officiating in the SIU game and then that horseshit luck that happened up at the Dome. The ball bounces a little bit different. That's a highly seeded team, and we're probably talking about three national championships, certainly in the running for it. And one of the craziest thing, your senior year, all the miles you guys traveled to be able to accomplish what you did in spite of that is still unreal. It's one of the craziest stats I think that I've ever seen for sure. And that team, your senior class, really kind of was the springboard to get us into these back-to-back title runs. And in 22, this version of the Jackrabbits and this version of Coach Rogers leading the helm, experiencing some of this adversity, some of this change, some of this carryover, similar to the 22 team where he started sluggish. UC Davis had some turnovers late to kind of make that game interesting. A lot of yips, penalties, turnovers early in the season, defense not fully dialed in. But we ran the table and won outright. So took an FBS loss in that one to start the year too that I think should have bounced it the other way. If we have a couple deep shots hit against Iowa, who knows what we're talking about, in terms of FBS dubs. But I think I like the way it's shaping out. You don't want to peak in August and September. You want to start to peak, and I'll say it on every single podcast if I have to. The fan base needs to know we need to peak later on in the year. You want to start to ascend later on in the year. You want to start getting into a rhythm. No better time to really start that ascent than this Saturday in Hammond, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So let's move into some predictions if you're good with that.
Yeah.
I think the spread is like 24.5 in favor of the Jacks. So before we get into score predictions and who's going to win, do you have anybody on the defensive side, since you're a defensive guy, that you have your eyes on as player of the game to watch?
Player of the game to watch, man. Let me. I know we were talking about Colby. He's been hooping. He's been hooping. I bet he has a pick or two.
Okay.
Caleb Francel too. He's
been balling.
ACL. Yeah, he's coming off that ACL, right? And so it's good to see him back out there flying around. Bach, he's back. Well, he didn't seem a little full speed yet, but he's back out there. And for my player of the game, man, this one, I want to see it, but I want to see my guy, the Priest. I want to see my guy, the Priest, get back there. I want to see him have a couple sacks, stuff the old lineman, stuff it back there, and cause the run game, muggy up the run game, and then get back there for them sacks after stopping the run.
I like it.
My guy, Jared the Priest, defensive player of the game.
That's a good pick. I think he's been dealing with a little bit of lingering issues with his back.
Yep.
I was talking to Stack about that, and I think he, as he starts to get healthier and healthier, he's going to be an impact and really a problem to deal with on the defensive line for opposing offenses. I think Max Balloon has played really well also, and really been a stalwart there on the defensive front. So I think he's a guy to kind of keep your eye on as well as that chain gang starts to earn that moniker back. And then you got Ruperta on the edge. Hopefully he continues to come along, because I know Kirschman, I believe is how you say his last name, is injured. I don't know if he's rolling back out there this week with the boys, but we'll see. You should really emphasize that Francel kid, because he has been playing with his hair on fire. I'm glad you brought him up. We definitely got to mention his impact that he's had fighting through blocks, just being a physical force out there and stepping up, because, we lost Stallbird, another guy to the NFL. We lost, obviously, the kid from Waseca. He was one of my favorite to watch. 6. Why can't I remember his name? He played with you. Linebacker.
Oh, Savion.
Yeah, Savion Williamson. Yep.
Savion Williamson, in fact, yeah. I was just talking to him yesterday too, actually.
Dude is a boss, right? He was such a high energy, high motor player, athletic. I won't call him sneaky athletic. He was just athletic. And it was cool to see Francel step up, given that we've had all that drop off from the second level defenders. And he's going to need to continue to bring the tone or bring the heat, because we need to set the tone on the defensive side of the ball.
Another saying Van Boss.
Yeah, Van den Bosch.
Van den Bosch. I don't know if I know what position.
Yeah, he's been coming along, and then Aaron Wolfcastle Holson, if I pronounce that right, he's done a great job as well. So want to see these guys continue to emerge, continue to take a step. Wolf Kale. Yeah, Wolf
Yeah.
Kale. Yep, you're right. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Mark. I think this is a game Mark knocks off the rust, gets dialed in, gets serious, and really lets it rip on Saturday. Whether it be through the air with his legs, I think his whole command of the team is going to be elite. And I know that when the lights are brightest and the pressure's on, he makes those plays, right? So I want to see that again. I think his chemistry is going to be more crisp and clean on the edge. Like to see the tight ends get involved in the game as well. So that's my offensive pick. On defense, or do you have an offensive pick as well?
Yeah, I mean, you said them, and that's why I was kind of going in on, I kind of want to see the passing game progress a little bit, but no, I want to see Mark have a solid game, and I know Mark really well. He is going to, he's gonna turn it up a notch. Kind of he got out of the rhythm, got his rhythm back, kind of like last year. Last year wasn't the slow start for them. 2 years ago, I remember he came back into the offense. He had that little slow start, but I think he's going to get into a rhythm this game and be the player of the game, have a really good game, and do some damage back there. Have some fun with it. Air the ball out like we see Mark can do, and some of those balls when he throws them, they're perfect. They're money.
Yep.
I think we're going to see a lot of those tomorrow, and see those guys kind of have some fun with it.
Yep. I want to see him return to that 2023, 2020 accuracy where his deep ball is just pure, hits guys in stride so they don't have to break stride and really step it up a notch and announce himself on the FCS scene again. And it'll be good. Shout out Chad. Let's go, brother.
Yes, sir.
Tolu, he says, "What's up, Tolu?"
Good to see you too, Chad. What's up, boss?
Yep, and I agree. Right on the money. Agreed, Chad. Yeah, he just needs to let it loose. Let it loose. Maybe listen to his go-to song in pregame. Just have some fun. Maybe needs a little classical music jam thrown in there, like my guy Mike Lean used to do. So good stuff right there. So offensively, that's your pick. Defensively, I'm going to make a pick. I'm going to go Caleb Francel. I think that he's been the most consistent defensive player this year. Top to bottom, he's flown around. Actually, him and Colby Humphrey, the transfer from Northern Arizona, number 22. If you haven't gotten to see him play, he shares your number. That dude can bring it. He had SC top 10 for sure pick on the year. I don't know if it got picked up by him, but absolutely should have been because it was remarkable. And all he's done is raise his game and really push for playing time and push the other guys in that unit to improve their game. So it'll be interesting to see him and Caleb Francel light it up on Saturday.
Yeah.
So special teams wise, this is where I want to see us get stuff cleaned up, right? Our first game, we're faking some punts, doing some exotic things to try to, stay in rhythm. So we're not having to play too much catch up. That's kind of an anomaly. He had Hunter Dustman had an elite punting day that day. He also had an elite kicking game as far as PAT field goal. Thus far this season, he's had a really clean game in each contest, and I want to see that continue. I do want to see him clean it up in the kickoff game. We've had a couple go out of bounds. One that was just wild against UIW. Another one against Oklahoma State that just can't happen after we have a quick score. So that needs to get cleaned up. And then on the KOR unit, Angel's about broken a couple. He's not going to be in this game. So I want to see what they do in the return game. I think they're going to try to expose Voorhees again, just because, they know what they've got on film, right? So hopefully if he's in that position, he secures the rock and really just, does what he can to do his 111th, as Stig would say. I think Dustman's going to have a good performance, and he's going to need to, and he's going to get it done in the field goal PAT domain. So I'm going to go with Hunter Dustman.
Yeah, and a name that I feel like we're missing a little bit this year in the special teams area, Tucker Large. Is he not returning punts anymore? Did they switch him?
Bro,
I just saw
that's a great question.
Yeah, I saw last game. I don't think he was returning one, and maybe they're resting him for
I think he's injured.
he's
I
injured.
I don't know if he's injured as in not playing, but I think he's got some limitations physically because he just
Or
hasn't looked. He hasn't looked himself. Chad brings up a good point. He is. And
wow.
I saw him come off the field last week, and he was laboring a little bit and just not playing like himself. And as we know, that dude, when he's 100%, it's lights out.
He's one of the smoothest players I've ever seen in
Right.
the DB position for real.
Yeah, and in the return game. So when I saw
Yeah.
Dallas Beanham back there, who can return in his own right, I was like, all right, something's up. Either he's in the doghouse with the coaches, which I can't imagine because he seems like a lunch pail guy who likes to get it and really wants to. He's one of those 2%ers I think wants to play at the next level. So that to me just stood out as something's going on here. So hopefully he's back. I noticed he was not on the 2 deep in the depth chart. So I don't even know if we'll see him roll out there. But if you got to kick it to Beanham, that's a hell of a guy to have backing up.
Yeah.
So that's my pick. I'm going to go with Hunter Dustman. Do you have a special teams pick?
Yeah, I love my guy Dustman. I'm always gonna stay with him. I don't think he missed the kick though this season yet. Did you say he hasn't missed a kick yet? So I always gotta give it to a shout out to my guy Dustman. I think he comes out there and does a great job. So I think he's gonna make some key kicks. And if we see 40 plus, a 40-yarder plus, that's I always love 40 yards or plus in college. That's can go either way, and that can change the whole outcome of the game. People don't realize you miss a field goal, you're giving them the ball right there. And so, that's some of the times in college you're seeing teams kick the ball, and you're kind of like, I'd rather just go for it. But with a guy like Dustman, I kind of just have that. Oh, we got Dustman kicking, we're good. So always give me that Dustman when I can.
Yeah, I was thinking he might have missed one that might have gone off the upright. I think it was against UIW because it was a chance for us to tie the game. That's right. That he did indeed miss one.
Okay.
Yep, Chad confirmed. So it's true. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Jim. Salute. But definitely clutch and has been pretty much throughout his career. But hopefully, I love seeing the 40-yarders too. But hopefully, it's with a healthy lead because nothing frustrates offensive dudes like myself more than having to kick a field goal, man. So long sustained drives. We have won time of possession this year. That's not saying much against Augustana, but we definitely won time of possession against the 2 opponents that we've seen thus far and put up healthy doses of yardage. So that's good to see. In terms of predictions of the score, I'm not going to get crazy like last week where I thought we were going to put up 70 plus. This is a new team. We're still trying to find our stride, but it was there on film against UIW and Oklahoma State. So I thought it would be in the cards, but I'm going to go. It's a road game. The margin of defeat is skewed, so I can't really look at that for C-Law. I call him C-Law because SLU just sounds ridiculous. I'm not going to call him SLU. And then we haven't – Seth, coming in clutch. This is great.
Yeah.
Sorry to diverge, but we haven't scored first yet this year.
Yeah.
If we get the rock, we better put that damn thing in the end zone.
Yeah. That was the most disappointing thing about that Augustana game is, even though if they only scored 3, it was like you kind of want to see them get those guys off the field right away. 3
I did too,
and when you don't see that, you're kind of what's going on? It's kind of a long drive with a team it shouldn't be a long drive with, and I didn't like that at all. So you hit it on the money setting. We got to score first. That's
and it's gonna totally, and it's gonna be a quieter environment. It's not gonna be 20,000 at the Dana rocking. With LSU. La Tech, Louisiana Monroe, even there's schools there that are going to be pulling fan bases. So you're not going to see, Nichols, there's so many other ones down there. McNeese is in St. Charles, but still technically Louisiana. So you're not going to see a raucous crowd, but those that are there are probably going to be loud. I think you're thinking 2K, 2 to 5,000. So, a tenth of what the Dana is going to have throughout this year. So we're going to have a favorable road environment, so to speak, but I want to say Jack's 28, C-Law 14, maybe. That's my prediction. What do you got?
I like that. I wanted to see the Jacks get into the 30s. So I'll go with 35. And for defense, we have a rule, keep them under 14. So this game that they played with Southern
East
Southern
Southern Miss.
Miss Southern Miss Golden is my prediction. 35-10.
Yeah.
I think we really dominate on the. I think we're gonna have a good game in the air, and on the ground. That's just our MO on the ground. But I think we have a good game on the air. Mark completes some of those passes that he hasn't completed in the past few games, and then defense is gonna clean it up, keep them under 14, and suffocate that run game. So I got 35-10 Jacks.
Love it. Yeah, I'd like to see him in the 30s as well. Seth Wade in here. Their night games can get a little raucous. That's good. I always liked it when the fans were engaged, right, wrong, or indifferent, and on the good side or the bad side or the dark side. So it'll be interesting to see who turns out for the home team fan base and the impact that has on the game. I like I like playing in the South too, just as a switch up from the North. You get a little bit of different feel. You're playing in warmer weather. To me, warmer weather lends itself to more speed. You can let loose. You're looser because it's definitely going to be humid. It's going to be sticky. So any fans going down there, enjoy yourselves, but pack accordingly. It's going to be toasty. Hopefully we see some guys in bibs. I don't know if the book club crew is going down there, but I do know I should shout out FCS Fans Nation, Stone Labanowitz. They're doing good things for Alex's lemonade stand in their fight against childhood cancer. So go check them out. They're going to be at Friendship Circle doing their tailgate and raising funds for that cause. No better cause, in my opinion, to raise funds for fighting childhood cancer. That is absolutely the worst thing possible I can imagine. So go get in touch with them. You can find them on Twitter, FCS Nation Radio, and it's going to be a good one, man. It's going to be a good one. We'll start to see who this Jacks team wants to be in terms of identity and if they can live up to the statement being the standard in South Dakota State football lore. Tolu, my man, thank you so much for joining me. Hope to have you back on the pod, man. It was fun. Good insights. Always love hearing takes from former players who are closer to the current era than myself. So appreciate it, brother. And with that, go big, go blue, go Jacks.
That's right. Appreciate you, Kyle. Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.